Hi there, Kyle Jarrard here, comedy magician and banjo picker. I've taught lessons for many years on how to play banjos to many different students, and I've looked around online and there's so many different videos out there right now teaching you on YouTube how to play the banjo. Many of them are fantastic and very good and informative, but there's also many that teach incorrect practices, and this is what I'd like to see people avoid. The last thing you want to do is develop bad habits while you're trying to learn to play any sort of instrument whatsoever. So I thought I would put together a few videos and see if I could work up some lessons that I could put out there for free as basically a crash course to playing the 5-string banjo. This will be the first one. This could be the orientation, let's say, where let's just get familiar with the instrument. I'll tell you some things about it, how to tune it, and some things that you should know before you get started playing. That way we go ahead and start off developing some good habits. First and foremost, the banjo has 5 strings on it. In order to play the style we're going to teach here, which is the 3-finger style, you're going to need finger picks and a thumb pick. And you can get these at any music store. The finger picks go with the metal facing outward. Bend them around your fingers so that they're comfortable and won't slide off easy. And the thumb pick should fit snug and not slide around on your thumb. This takes a little bit of time to get used to, but it's a good thing. A lot of people play without picks, but you lose a lot of the volume and tone that you get with the picks for this particular style if you want to play a driving bluegrass banjo style. So let's talk about the strings. That way you're familiar with how we're referring to the strings as well. The strings are numbered 1 to 5 from the bottom up. So you have the first string is the bottom string, the next string is the second, then the third, the back string is the fourth, and then the short string is the fifth. Just like so. And there's so many different ways to tune these strings and tune banjos for different songs and things to get different effects. But for now we're just going to focus on G tuning, which is the most standard straightforward tuning for a banjo. I would recommend purchasing some sort of clip-on tuner such as this right here. They make them in so many different brands, sizes, shapes, colors, and you can find them anywhere between $10 and $60 depending on, and some more expensive depending on how nice of a tuner you'd like. These just clamp onto the banjo like so up here on the headstock. You can find some others that clamp on down here in places. And you can also find apps for your phone that tune, but they use the microphones. You have to make sure you're in a quiet place to do it. When you're tuning the banjo, the first string is tuned to a D, and it should match that note right there. The second string is tuned to a B for G tuning. So first string is D, second string is B. The third string is tuned to a G. The fourth string is tuned to a lower D. And the fifth string is tuned to a high G. It's tuned in such a way so that when this banjo is strummed, you have an open G chord, which means you don't have to use the frets or your fingers at all to already have a G chord played. There it is right there. G tuning. Some other things you want to focus on as you're trying to learn the banjo are how you hold the banjo. You want to try and sit up straight as you can in a way that's comfortable for you while holding it. There's many different books and lessons that try and say there's an exact way you need to do things, but again, this is just my approach that I would like to share with how I learn the banjo and how I play it. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and there's more than one way to play a banjo. You want to try and hold it essentially so that the banjo is at an angle. Most guitar players, the guitar is like this when you play, but the banjo is a little different. You want the neck to be at more of a 45-degree angle with your body, so that when you play, you can have a comfortable, sorry, my dog's barking, you can have a comfortable approach to getting up and down the neck really easy. You want to make sure the pot is secure between your legs, just like this, and your arm will rest on this piece right here called the armrest. Go figure. There you go, like that. This is the proper stance for playing the banjo. Now, you want to make sure that your arm is at a position where it's not too far out so that there's too much curve on the wrist, but you also don't want to make sure that your hand is cocked back like this as you're trying to play the strings. So the best approach is typically to put your arm at a point where it's comfortable within a few inches from the end of your hand onto that armrest, and you want a slight curve to your wrist. I wish I could show you this a little better, but coming down onto those strings. Some people practice this when they have trouble with it by putting a tennis ball between their wrist and the head of the banjo so that it gives their arm a little bit of arch and your hand can come back for a good attack with your fingers. And the other thing is planting your fingers. Now the Earl Scruggs book and Earl says to plant your pinky and your ring finger onto the head. This is going to give you an anchor point as you play so that you can become more comfortable and more honed in on where your strings are. Now, I don't always anchor both fingers. I usually just end up anchoring the pinky. Sometimes I anchor both, but it's more comfortable for me to anchor my pinky, and that other ring finger just wiggles around and doesn't do anything, the phantom picker. But that's okay. As long as it's not interfering with your playing, that is all that matters. So anchor that hand, make sure you have a slight curve, your banjo is at the correct angle, and you want to always try and be in the same position as you play and practice, because you want to be able to find where those strings are without looking, essentially. That's how you want to be able to approach the banjo, so that you know where those strings are without having to constantly look down at your hand like this to make sure everything is in the right position. So as you practice, just make sure to have good practicing habits. Familiarize yourself with the banjo. We're going to work on some rolls. Practice those rolls, get those down, then we'll move on to chords, and then we'll start learning some tunes and things. But as you practice, please be conscious of these things and work on them, and make sure you notice them. That way we don't develop bad habits as we move along. My name's Kyle Jarrard. I hope you enjoy these videos. They're for you for free as a way to help you jumpstart your banjo playing. Thank you very much.